Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new class, a new lesson in the Kufi Kairouani script. In today's lesson we are going to look into letters Sin, Shin, Sad, Dad, Ta, Dha, Ain and Ghin. Now those letters are similar to each other, some of them. We will start with the letter Sin, and for Sin we're going to do 2 points of height. That is for the first part of it. So the tooth here, we call them tooth in Arabic, asnan. The tooth here have certain shape to them. So these are the 2.5 points of height, and we're gonna add half a point here for us to start with, then 2.5 points for the rest of the letter, as you can see here. Now, when you start with the letter, it's like a bat thing. Like as you can see in bat, we had this 2.5 by half. So it's simple. You start from here, you go down to the right, and you rotate back here. So this is the first move. It's easy. You would do the second move with the line and stop before the end, because here we have something tricky to do. The second letter would be like you would leave quarter of this distance and you would do your second tooth down here. Don't worry about the tops here, because we're going to change something about them right now. And this is the singular one. So with a singular one, you're going to drag your Sin from this part. So you can see this second move, second tooth. This is the one that is going to go downward. So your third tooth right here will join and stop. So this is something to keep an eye on, because as you can see, the angle here goes below the writing line. So the cup starts from the second move rather than the last move. And this is important. Now, going back to the top part here, so here we've got our 2.5 points. It's kind of closer than that. The top part here, you would continue with a draw part like this. So you're going to start with your perpendicular lines like these ones, vertical ones. Then you would draw a curve up here that will join all three at the same level, so that it will look like a scene. They all follow each other. If you don't want them to look curvy, you would have to do your straight lines here in a way that they will all be unified. So this is the first one. Here you've got the second one, which will contain the cup, and the third one would come from here. So this is an option for them to be straight. And there's the other option that we saw here, which is to have them in a curvature, just like this. And with the curvature, these will extend to this part. This is with regards to the first part of it, which is the three teeth, nabarat. The second part would be the cup. And for the cup, we have to drop 4.5 points below the line, right over here. This is the maximum drop of the line. Now, from this point, the point you've extruded, to the point where it will touch, this is 4 points. So this will govern the angle you're going to move with to hit to this part. So what you're going to do now is simply continuing the letter until you touch here. You would stop, and now you have a left part for it, which is basically going back up. And for this part, it would be 2.5 by 2. 1 and 2. So this is where it will end. And with regards to the ending here, so you are going to go up to the left, and you are going to lift the pin from the lower side, just like this. Now you ended up with a gap down here. This gap you will stop and you will draw it with the pen, just like this. Then you would fill this with ink. Again, the lower move of the letter, you would go up to the left with a curve, and you lift the lower part of the pen, this part, by rotating the pen clockwise. Once you do this move, you would stop and you would go back to draw a straight line, then you would color this part. This is with regards to the cup of the scene. Now this is a singular scene, and the sheen would be the same thing with regards to the dots. If you had your three teeth up here, you could have them like this, or circles if you want to, or circles around each other. So these are the options you have for the dots. The scene doesn't have dots. When it comes connected, again, it's like the letters in this script. You've got your lam or whatever the letter is, and once it stops here, the scene will, you would leave like 1.5 points for giving yourself a nice angle going back, and you would go back and drop below the line here. So this is the writing line. Then you would continue your letter just like previously. You see what I said about the last bit of it. So when you connect it, it drops below the line like this. And you would finish this. Now this part I've done it straight downward, but you could also have it curvy. So this is your scene. And you would finish it here. And this part could be actually curvy, just like this, if you want to. But I go for the straight one because I love the straight lines in this script. So this is with regards to the letter scene. Moving on, we have letter Sad, which is kind of tricky because it's really long and it's really straight. And you don't have to worry about the straightness of, about the, let's say, the perfection of this script, because it should look authentic. So don't perfect it, make it look natural, like old manuscripts. So with the letter Sad and Ta, we're gonna use 1.5 points of height. And here's something important, which is to scale your letter properly, because with this letter we have to move a lot. So we've got 1.5 points of height, we've got 4 points of width, and we're going to start with this from this point. So putting your pen right over here with the lower edge to this end and the upper edge to this end, you would move backward like this up until you reach this point. Now here you have a sort of a change of direction, which is 1 point of width. So you would stop here, you would go down with a 45 degrees and you would stop. This way you got this shape up over here, as you can see. Now you're going to transition the pen, move the pen down to here, and you would continue your letter with a nice, really thin opening inside here. So moving the pen down, you're going to continue your letter like this, and you would stop before the ending here. I hope it's clear. So you go 1, 2, 3. This way you get this nice angle on at the end here. The next would be the Nabira for the Sad, and this one would be 0.5 point away from here. So you would start from here and you would go down and it would stop here. This is the thing about the upper and the lower move. This should end like before the upper one, so that when you go back with your Nabira, it won't object to it, because then you will have to do the cup just like the scenes cup. So make sure to double check that. So doing it again, you go back to the right, you stop, go down, come back, and you would stop this before the end, so that when you come back with your Nabira, it won't have extruded part, and you would do your cup just like we did for the letter scene with this move up here. This would be your letter Sad and letter Dad, the same thing. And moving on to, when you connect it, it will be the same thing basically. So you will have this line, and you could actually start with this line, like extrude as much as you like. Then you would come back and do your Sad up here. Then the Nabira would come here, and you would continue this to whatever letter you've got after it. So حضر, let's say, no, يحضر, to prepare something. You see, it's easy. It's quite forgiving because you've got the baseline as a straight line. Then you can put whatever letters you want on this line. So yeah, this is the sad, connected and singular, and the dad, the same thing. Following this, we've got the letter ta. Now, ta is the same thing as sad. The only difference is that we have to scale it from down below because it's we've got the sort of the top part of the ta up here. So for the ta, we're going to start with half a point here, which will be governing our end. Then we're going to add 5 points for the length of the ta. Now the ta has an end here, so that's why it's a bit longer than the sad. So what we will do is to come to this last 1 point distance, take a line up here, and again it's 1.5 points, just like the sad, and you would start your dot. Now this end, it will sort of be the first and the top part, which again you will have to stop just before the end. With 1 point of distance, you would do this shape, the same thing that we talked about in this odd. Then you would go back, as you can see it's half a point. Then you would go back and the lower part will extrude to this part that we talked about here, to this part. So in the ta it's different because you've got the top part coming down here. In the sad, no, it has to go back. So in the sad it would be shorter and the lower part would stop before this part because you've got the nabira coming down here. In the ta it's the opposite. So we finished this. Now from the top part here you would go up for 4 points, just like an alif basically, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you would drag 2 points from the end part, which is this part here. So from here, this is where your alif, or like the alif for the ta, will start, and this one is like 45 degrees moving straight downward, then going to the left. So the first time you would do it, you have to sort of get your angle here, just like this, so that when you go down, you would know when to curve and come back with your letter, just like this. So it is about going down, then knowing where to curve, where to start curving in order for you to end with the point here. So if you want to do it again, you go back, down, stop, go back, stop behind this move, then coming back up here. You could do it roughly by hovering above the paper until you reach this point. Then you would go down and go all the way back to here. Now you might find that when you do it with the pen sort of gives you this slight curve at the end here. This is where you would fix it to make it look sharp. Because when you do the last part, the pen gives, I'm exaggerating here, but the pen gives you this angle, which is different from this angle. So you have to close this on this one. So when you do it, you see this small angle here? This is the one that would appear, be quite visible when you stop here. As you can see, it's moving smoothly, then suddenly it's going back down here. And you could easily fix this by closing it this way. The same thing with regards to the connection of the letter ta. Is a straight line, then you would close it. We will look into it in the examples. The va is the same thing as we said. You put a dot here, or if it was a circle one. In Kufi, usually you don't put dots, but if you felt the necessity of putting them, feel free to do that. Next we're gonna do the letter Ain, and for the Ain it's similar to a hat in a way that it has a cup down, like it has a body down there. So we start with 2.5 for the height and with a width of 3 points. So this is the shape that we've got here. Now when we start the letter, we start it above this line, like from here. So feel free to do it. And what you have to do is like get this 1 point, and you would go down to the left, you would stop here, then you would come back, as you can see. Now you can come back with your lower part of the letter Ain from this point all the way back to here. So as you can see, you've got this nice neck to it. Now this upper part, when you do it, it might have an angle this way. You could make it perpendicular. So this is the angle you start with. You could just stop here and do this to look perpendicular. Talking about this part. Then you've got the lower part, which is the body of the Ain, and it's 4.5 points. Dropping down to here. And starting from this point, you're going to need 3.5 points to know your ending here, or 1 point from the top here. So the same rule, 0.5 point here for the end part, and you would go down, start rotating, touch the line, then come back up with a nice angle like this. Now the top part here we've made like rectangular in a way. So you've got this angle, then this angle comes down, then this angle. So you've got sharp edges. You could have it curvy. So you would start from here, you would go down, go back, and this would turn into a curve instead of having straight lines. Then you would finish your Ain with this end. This is the Ain singular or by itself, or at the beginning of a word, because at the end it will change shape. But then in the middle of the word it will be colored, it will be closed. And for that one, what we are going to do is, again, we're 2.5 points with 2.5 points of width. This is the box that will contain our letter, so it is connected. So the connection coming from here, and what happens is that we stop, we go down just like this. This is the first move from the connection. Now from this side, we're going to grab a line that is going down and touching this part. From this point, the 1.5 point, this height, this is where the letter would end. So the curve that we've got here stops here. So this is a bit too long. So what we will do is, as we said, going back, you go down to get this angle here. Then from the 1.5, which is the curvature, the top curvature, this is the sort of the angle that you're gonna work with. Kind of losing my words here. So this will govern your moves, and from here you would get your first angle, and from here is going to be your second angle, and this is the part that is going to be colored. So it is more of a painting rather than drawing the letter. So here you've got the cone shape. Then this end will connect to the body of it. So when you color this, it would look like this, basically. You would move, go down, stop here. You could go up this way, but then you need the angle that you will have the curvature here. Color this part. And come back here to add your end. Or if it was connected, you could simply just connect it just like this. I rarely use this, to be honest with you. I usually use the normal one. So when it is connected, I simply add the letter Ain here. So يعلم, for example. I would simply use this this shape. Even at the end, I prefer this shape, even in normal writing, even Diwani. So I would keep the open, and because this is nice, but I'm not a big fan of how it looks like. So this is for today's lesson. We've got these letters: Sin, Shin, Sad, Dad, Ta, Ta, Ain, and Ghain. The same thing with regards to the dots. With regards to examples, you could try the following. We're going to write Al-Gharib, the strange. So, Alif. The lam goes down below the Alif, so this is something we're going to look into in the future. And here you're going to use this Ghain if you want to practice it. You need the top part to look like a proper semicircle. Then we have a Ra, a Ya, and a Ba. This might need to be a bit longer. Yeah, this is good. So this is Al-Gharib. We've got for the Sad, Ashab, friends. Alif, Sad, I'm going to use this Ha and an Alif. And finally a Ba. We could write Sajid for the Sin. So, as we said, we've got the first tooth, then the second one, which will be the one connected, then the third one. Finally here I'm going to add my curvature, which would look like this. We've got an Alif, got a Jim. You could use this Jim if you want to. And the Dal. Sajid. Dots could come down here if you want them. Finally, we've got Tabib, which means a doctor. We've got a Ta. We've got Ba, Ya, and Ba. So for this one, what I'm going to do is get the first one really high and perpendicular. The second one, I'm going to make it with an angle. The last one with an angle, but it is short. Ta, Bib. So, you've got some words for you to practice, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I thought it would be like too much for one lesson, but these are the letters for today. Back to the Ain, make sure that it looks like this. Looks like one of those cheese that come in a sort of triangular shape. And yeah, like and share, and subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about calligraphy. This has been Amar Audi, and see you in the next class. Have a lovely day, evening or night, and goodbye.